Okay, good morning. Making this video for Kyle specifically, but this will help just about anybody who wants to learn how to double clutch. First and foremost, in your smaller vehicles like cars and things like that that have stick shift transmissions, the transmissions are synchronized, so you don't have to worry about pushing the clutch pedal twice, okay? All you have to do is push the pedal in one time all the way and do your shift, and it's no big deal because the transmissions are synchronized. Unfortunately, in a larger vehicle like a truck or a bus, okay, transmissions are not synchronized, and since they're not, you have to shift twice. You have to push that clutch pedal 2 times in order to get it to shift smoothly and evenly. What that does is when you're pushing that clutch pedal, the first push is to get it out of gear, the second push is to get it into the next gear. What happens in between is it allows the RPMs to fall on the downshift and synchronize into the next gear. Example, you're in first gear, the first push of the clutch brings it out of gear, then when you let the clutch up, now the RPMs are falling, then you're pushing the clutch in again and pulling it into the next gear. Hence, 2 pushes of the clutch, and it's called double clutching. Okay, now what I just showed you is a much smaller or slower version of it. It has to be faster than that, and depending on what vehicle you're driving, like if you have a Detroit or a Cat, you might have to be pretty quick on how many times, when you do that double clutch and you push it twice. Otherwise, engines like a Cummins or something like that, you might not have to push it that fast. You can take your time in between. Usually, like on a Detroit, you'll have to push it pretty fast. 1, 2, okay? And that's how I usually do it. And then you don't want to ride the clutch, so the good practice is 1, 2, put your foot in the floor. Now we're doing this with the engine off just so I can show you. We are going to go driving here. The vehicle I'm using is a 2006 Freightliner M2. It has a it has a Cat engine in it, and it has a 9-speed transmission. Okay, so here we are, double clutch, 1, 2, foot in the floor. Now you'll have to be a little bit faster than that, obviously, depending on your vehicle. Remember, practice makes perfect. You're not always going to hit it 100%. You are going to grind a few gears. Everybody does it. You'll hear it maybe a little bit here, hopefully not, but the general idea is 1, 2 pushes of the clutch, get your foot in the floor. 1, 2, foot in the floor. Okay, let's give this a whirl here. Let's see if we can start this beast up and go for a ride. Now, I have the phone / camera secured with the bungee cord, as you can see there, so that way you'll be able to hopefully see my footwork. I'm not really as interested in showing you the handwork at this point. I can explain that, but I want you to see the footwork because the footwork is important here, okay? So, let's get set up here and let's get rolling along, okay? Now, alright, here we go. Hopefully we hit a bounce or something, this thing isn't going to come off. But one of the most important things is to make sure that you get your foot off of that clutch and put it on the floor in between each shift. Because if you ride the clutch, and what I mean by riding the clutch is just leaving it like that, leaving your foot on. It's easier in between shifts, but it really tears the clutch up. You don't want to do that, okay? Alright, let's do a shift here. Now, for all intents and purposes, we're upshifting, okay? So keep that in mind. Upshifting, the RPMs fall. Downshifting is a whole new animal, and you got to raise the RPMs instead of letting them fall. In between the shifts, you'll actually accelerate. Okay, here we go, upshifting. This is first gear to second gear. 1, 2, foot to the floor. Okay, here we go, second to third. 1, See what I mean about grinding? I'm trying to exaggerate it. So since I'm trying to exaggerate it, sometimes, you know, it's not going to be 100% smooth. But once we get out on the actual highway rolling, I'm going to shut up and just let you watch how I shift. Okay? And then you'll get to see the upshift and the downshift. Alright? So here we go. Third gear and fourth gear. See? That was a little bit faster there. I worked for, well, I've been doing this stuff for about 30 years, okay, and I worked for a company called Capital Trailways out of Harrisburg, PA, and it was a great place to work. It was probably by far the most favorite place I ever worked in my life. I wish they were still around. And the phone really stayed with the vibration. Let's reset it here before we get rolling. I wish they were still in business, but unfortunately they're not. And so I've had to move on elsewhere. And but while I was there, I drove the MC7s, I drove the MC8s, I drove the MC9s, I even drove an MC5. There were 4 speeds with the solenoid reverses, and there were 5 speeds as well. So the general idea is I do know exactly how to shift these things, and I like it. So it's pretty simple. Once you get the hang of it, practice a lot, you'll be good to go. So here we go. Okay. We're going to run through the full gamut of gears here. In this case, we're starting on the 3rd gear. There's 4. There's 5th. There's 6th. Now for those of you who are familiar or aren't familiar, you learned that layer hiss. Okay, that was when I switched from the low side of the transmission into the high side. Okay, with the 9-speed transmission, you have to throw the button in between gears 5 and 6. Okay, and you get to the high side of the transmission. In essence, you're going backward gear 2. Gear 1, we really don't use. It's like a granny blow. If you got a big load on there and you're pulling out from a steep grade, then you may want to go ahead and use gear 1. But in most cases, we're always starting in gear 2 when you have a decent load on. If you're empty or you don't have any load, you don't really have to. You don't really have to do that at all. Okay. So hopefully this thing's going to stay in place, and I'm going to shut up and just do some shifting here. So, you know, enjoy. out of the restricted zone here for engine retarders or jake brakes, if you want to call them. Okay, I can turn this one on. Makes pretty decent noise. I always like the sound of that noise, but a lot of people don't. Certain places it's illegal to actually use them wherever they're restricted. The town we just came through, they're restricted. Now, one thing about jake brakes, see, everybody grinds them a little bit once in a while. I'm playing around, exaggerating here. But anyways, when you use a jake brake, it will drag your RPMs down quicker. Okay? So that means that you have to shift a little quicker too. Clutch a little quicker too. Let me show you what I mean here. See, that was much faster than what we've been doing. Simply because once the jake kicks in, see, it will grind, it will kick it back down. Alright? And then you gotta bring the RPMs up to get it into gear. So you gotta be mindful when you have that jake brake on to be a little bit quicker with it. But as far as sound goes and as far as stopping goes, jake brake is nice because you don't really have to use your brakes as hard. On this vehicle, unfortunately, the jake brake really doesn't help us as far as slowing down any more than if we didn't have it on. But, you know, it does work. Some of the tractor trailers that I've driven, you have the jake brake on and they really do slow you down way better. And they save your brakes a lot better too. You're not constantly replacing brake pads when you have a really good jake brake. Traveling public on average don't have an idea what it takes to slow down one of these vehicles from highway speed. You can't just stop on a dime and get 9 cents change. Even though they like to believe we can do that, unfortunately we can't. So we have to drive defensively. Watch out for things like that. See, now you can hear that jake brake just a hair between each upshift, and because that's dragging the RPMs down some, we shift a little bit quicker. There it is, double clutching. It pushes in the clutch to complete one shift, up and or down. Okay, up shifting, down shifting. You're pushing that clutch 2 times. If it's not done right, you can tear a vehicle up pretty bad. The average cost to replace a clutch in an MC9 5-speed back in the day was about $700. Would you believe Capital Trailways used to replace them on average and sometimes 2 times a month or every other month? It was crazy, but yet they hired guys who really couldn't drive stick shift. I was one of them in the beginning. How I learned? Through practice, obviously, but I got out on a little course that was kind of like a big circle, almost like a racetrack. And it had long on-ramps and long off-ramps. And I just went around in circles. And I practiced upshifting, getting out onto the highway, and then downshifting on the off-ramps, getting off. Then I'd turn around and go right back and do the same thing. Practicing the upshifting and downshifting. That's key. You have to practice. If you don't practice, it don't work. Just remember, if you mess it up once, there's a bunch more times to come. so that you can get it right. So if you're grinding gear, don't worry about it. It's going to happen. Nobody's perfect. You've heard me grind it a time or two here. But the general idea is you just got to stay at it, practicing, and you get it right eventually. So that's all I got. Enjoy, take care, happy motoring, safe driving.